Anthony Darkson.
And I'm Roland Slyshadow.
Together, we are the Twin Dragons.
Hey, today I thought it'd be a great idea to talk about some of the campaigns we actually did.
Yeah, and we can even throw some one-shots as well.
Yep, we could do it from a DM's perspective.
And a player's perspective.
And I thought today, the first one should be Storm King's Thunder. It's a story about the conflicts happening in the land of Faerun. There are strange going-ons, rumors happening even, that actually starts to reach the party's ears. Rumors about events happening between the various tribes of giants. Rumors and circumstance and events that may start to a long adventure going from mountains, plains and forests, hills, and all various locations where the giants rule.
The campaign is broken down into, I believe, 2 sections. It's a level 1 through 5 to kick off, and then the second half runs you from level 5 to 10, because you can't fight giants at level 1 through 5 yet.
That is true. Even though the campaign is actually broken up into a introductory starting portion to get you to the main storyline with the giants, it's not necessary to start at the very beginning at level 1. You could just start a party at the recommended level of level 5 or 6 and continue on from there just to jump straight into the main storyline.
This campaign takes you across from the Sword Coast all the way across Faerun. One of the great things about this campaign is that you get to visit many famous cities across Faerun, many famous towns, and other locations.
That is true. For location, I think that it's a good campaign that it's really stationary, where a lot of lore has already been developed. There's tons of websites about the various towns and forests and plains and hills and all these different locations where you can fill this land with so much if you need to pad the main adventure, if you want to. The adventure itself does have enough content really to keep you busy, as long as you're progressing through the various clues and hints and rumors that take you to the various different tribes. You will have guidance along the way. You will actually find some NPCs that will help you really dig into what's going on with the actual giants.
So, from a DM's perspective, what would you like to share when running Storm King's Thunder?
Well, first I will say this. There are challenges when it comes to this. Balance being the main challenge. Once you're in the main storyline and you really start being involved with the various giant encampments, running actual combat with giants in a party, if your party is well prepared and well structured, the giants shouldn't be too much of a problem. But at the same time, if you didn't start them at the right place, if they advance too quickly to reach the encampments too fast, and they're not strong enough really to be able to handle some of those encounters, it can be quite difficult. Running into a trap of multiple giants throwing stones at your party's heads with you guys have no chance of stopping them can be a bit tricky. So that's the first that's going to have to give you. Besides that, familiarize yourself, if you're not already, with a lot of the different towns and nuances. Various towns always have different things about their economy, some notable figures already in those specific towns.
Some famous names.
Yep, some famous names. It's always good to kind of throw some of those NPCs that just kind of wander by and like, oh, that's Alana Stormbreeze or whatever, so just some character that may be in that time frame, wherever you want to put it, in that time frame. So the characters, those who are actually familiar with the Forgotten Realms may be like, wow, this is awesome. That's that character. But if not, then you can introduce them to some of those NPCs and get them familiar with the lore by then bringing stories and rumors, so people start realizing who these major players are within these various areas that you actually get to explore. So, which I think is pretty cool. That's something that's a good idea to do. When it comes to running besides that, the book is structured well enough that you should be able to follow through without too much errors and problems. This is one of the earlier 5e pre-constructed books by Wizards of the Coast, so it's not too bad to follow. That's pretty much all I got for a DM's perspective. Running it as a DM and preparation is actually, I think preparation, anytime you have a pre-designed campaign, preparation is actually always key. Don't think I can just read it while we're playing it. Nah, that's not how that works. Because you do need to read ahead. You do need to see how things tie together, so you may be able to find a better way to make various rumors or various instances tie together, events tie together better. So always read ahead. Always do your preparation. Like I, no matter anytime we talk about games, I'm always telling about preparation. But with these pre-constructed games, it's still needed. You know, it's not as heavy, obviously, if you're just doing it yourself and creating your own content. But at the same time, some preparation would actually be nice.
So, a question for the DM: what would you rate the challenge rating for Storm King's Thunder as a DM who ran it? Would you think it's great for beginners, intermediate, or more advanced Dungeon Masters?
Well, I think balance is always up to the Dungeon Master. Really, they truly have control over balance, right? Obviously, the book itself will present things a certain way, but it does give leniency to allow the DM to control these kind of things. So I would say this module is actually this campaign is actually appropriate for all skill levels. There's nothing in it really that stops beginners or experts, master players of Dungeons and Dragons, that would trip them up either. So now, from a player's perspective, what do you think about the Storm King's Thunder?
As a player, we had a lot of fun. It was very enjoyable. I think one of the points that we made earlier were you got to visit a lot of great locations, had a lot of fun through visiting different cities, exploring from different geographies, from mountains to forests. It was very versatile. So you got to enjoy that as a player. I think the one thing you have to be careful with as a DM from a player's perspective is the amount of traveling you do. And when you travel a lot, you know, how do you keep your players entertained? And as a player, it can be challenging. You know, sometimes you're like, oh, you know, you get bored of okay, nothing happened this day. You continue on. Nothing happened that day. And you're just going down the road and nothing happened that day. And as a player, you're like, okay, well, you know, might as well just teleport me there. So,
you know, I did try to mix up. This was closer to the beginning of our 5e adventure when we started playing 5e. But I think that I tried to mix it up as best I can. I remember sometimes you just, hey, teleport, you're there. It is what it is. If you don't want to do a journey, then do that. But sometimes you want to do a journey. You want to have encounters, or you want events to happen. That's actually obviously onto the DM to be able to actually try to figure that out. Some DMs like to use random tables for making encounters. There are a bunch out there online. You can find a bunch of random encounter tables, especially for like various types of regions. So if you guys are traveling through a mountain pass, there's random encounter tables to help you get through that, so you can actually kind of randomize it. So even the DM would be surprised, like, oh my, I can't believe they're going to encounter this, and then the DM compare that and then give that to their players. But at the same time, like I said, it depends on your group. The DM's just going to have to make that determination when does his group like to, if they like encounters, if they like just doing random battles, it fills out the world more, it makes the world feel more lived in, versus just teleporting from city to city location.
I think also as a player, I really enjoyed side quests, like little crazy things that can happen, especially when you're in these towns. And you know, our DM absolutely gave us a little bandwidth to have a little fun with some side quests and journeys, because you know, when you're exploring a new city, you know, especially if you may know it and you're familiar with the city, so you're excited to be there, or even for players who haven't really experienced Faerun and all that it has to offer, just allowing the players to just kind of have fun of where they're at. Maybe they want to get drunk at the tavern that one night, right? It's okay to, if they get a little rowdy, to have them arrested by local dwarven guards. It's fine. It happens, right? But giving a little bit of that player agency so we can experience all the different areas and cities and towns allows us to just have that much more fun.
And like I said before, the more you can make the world feel alive, the better the immersion experience your party will have. So as a player, what are your final thoughts on the Storm King's Thunder? Your experience and how you felt about it as a player.
I enjoyed it. It was good. Not the top campaign out there, but definitely a good campaign.
And from a DM, like anything, if the DM really takes it and makes it their own, I think it has a lot of potential, a lot of room for interesting events and things to happen. So I say I wouldn't put it at my top, but I would put it an enjoyable one that's good for any group out there.
Let's talk about Curse of Strahd.
From a DM perspective, I'm just going to say it right off the bat, my favorite. Now, the Curse of Strahd takes place actually in a pocket dimension, the land of Barovia, in the campaign setting of Ravenloft. This is a land cursed, surrounded by a never-ending fog. A fog that creates a wall which prevents any creatures from escaping. It is a dark world of shadow. Creatures that creep in the night. Vampires, werewolves, the undead.
I love just hearing it.
This place is wrought with danger, intrigue, and evil far beyond anything you have ever experienced.
As you can tell, this one also is one of my favorites. But let's kick off with the DM perspective. Running the campaign as a DM, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, this campaign is actually a sandbox type campaign, which is, some DMs struggle with it hard because it has less direction. It's more of, hey, these things happen in this location, and these things happen in this location, and these things happen in this location. But you do have an overarching storyline that is happening, and some DMs struggle with that. Some DMs thrive on sandbox because it gives them more room for creativity and to really adjust as the party moves. So I would say that it is not a easy campaign to run because of that sandbox type. It takes way more preparation than any other type of campaign outside of creating your own. More than the normal campaigns that actually are all the other pre-written campaigns from Wizards of the Coast. I think that even though it is difficult and it does take way more preparation, I advise literally reading the book from start to finish first, and then go back and then prepare. So do a first reading, go back, and then prepare your sections. Obviously, because it is open-ended, the party is going to move about and go in totally a different direction than you thought they were going to go. So that's why that initial reading really helps out, because it'll get you to be able to go from where they're starting to where they may end up.
So, based off of those thoughts, would you consider it intermediate or expert level DMs who could run something like this?
Not for beginner DMs. I'm sorry. I would really say wet your whistle on something else. Probably like Storm King Thunder, as we talked about before, or some of the other pre-constructed campaigns. I think it would have to be more intermediate DMs and expert DMs, more experienced DMs to run this. I'm sorry, beginner DMs. Try. You got to warm up first before you get to this one. But
learn how to walk before you run.
But at the same time, it's well worth it when you're able to. Some of the things I would like to talk about. This is all about setting and mood. You know how I introduced it and I talked about how it was about dark and evil and vampires. And you have to really put your players in that location because you want them to experience the dread and some of the horror that actually it has to offer. Really put them in there so they can truly immerse themselves into the madness and the crazy things that actually happen in this campaign.
If you were to give one advice for DMs running this, what would that one advice be?
Well, I already said it was preparation. That's probably it. But besides that, mood, as I mentioned. Try doing some external things to really help your team out. Dim the lights, light some candles, put them in that setting. Have some background music or sound effects of dark wood sound effects and creaking insects and maybe steps of if your party's inside a some kind of haunted house or something, have creaking noises coming from the background and stuff like that. Really get them into that mood. And I think that would really win over your party for sure.
I really want to get your thoughts on the main villain.
Strahd is probably one of the best villains in a pre-written Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And it's not even a spoiler to even talk about it. Reason being is because he should be prominent throughout the whole campaign. The adventurers, as soon as they enter this realm, by however means you wish them to get there, they already learn quickly who's in charge of this place. And then they should have experiences with this character nonstop throughout the whole adventure. Experiences of the choices that he makes. Maybe even meeting the adventurers. Maybe even a invitation to a dinner. It's really exciting. You really do have to, from a DM, you really have to inject Strahd into it. He is a slick vampire lord. You have to run it that way. Think Dracula. Dracula doesn't just hide and never says hi to people. No, he invites people to his house for whatever reason you decide. So that would really spice it up too. So now, from a player's perspective, what'd you think of the Curse of Strahd?
Curse of Strahd, by far, is my favorite campaign I ever got to experience. Some of the elements that, as a player, I loved was the dark tone, was the creepiness of it, was the experience of the different horror elements within it. So, to your point earlier, mood is super important. As a player, I enjoyed that mood. One of the other great things from a player perspective is knowing who your villain was. Sometimes you end up in campaigns or one-shots and you don't know who the bad guy truly is until the very end. Heck, there's been even video games in the past who've kind of done that, where you thought there was one villain and then you get to the end and you're like, okay, well, where did this guy come from, right? As a player, I got to truly interact with Strahd and having fear, knowing I'm too low level for me to be interacting with him. I can't get into a fight with this guy yet because he's gonna destroy us. So we're navigating conversation, we're navigating what is his agenda and plan, and we're just trying to figure out what's happening. And because we know this is we can't fight him, we know this is not the end. So just that anticipation and having to deal with different scenarios truly created a great experience. So it was really awesome. I loved it.
So for you, let me know about some memorable moments that you might have had.
There was a lot of memorable moments, but one, I think, without spoiling anything, I think it's all about the choices that we made and the consequences to follow. to know that we win one way with a plot, and because of that, having to face the impact and consequences that may have affected an individual or even a whole town.
That's true. I think that that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind with running the Curse of Strahd, is that it's a living world, and because of the evil twists that happen within this world, choices players make may lead to things they didn't expect, and especially they didn't want.
Man, I wish I could spoil some stuff. Man, it was so good.
Too many cool events that we don't want to ruin.
I can't ruin it
for future players.
It was
to
too
experience.
good. It was too good. So, overall thoughts of Curse of Strahd.
If you haven't already figured out by our smiles and by my beginning statement saying this is my favorite one, it's excellent. The characters, the various events that can happen, the sandbox nature, which allows the game master, the dungeon master technique to truly, really bring their characters into a world unlike any normal fantasy realm, outside of just your woods, towns, and fairies and dragon stuff. Let's take you something dark. I think is probably is going to be one of the most greatest experiences for a campaign that you could actually give to your party.
In the hands of a skilled DM, this will be one of the best adventures and most memorable adventures you'll ever have.
Moving on. Another campaign that we ran, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. The Fey Realm, where creatures of both light and dark intermix, where neutrality technically runs supreme. It's more about the wild magic and the various creatures of wild magic, like fairies and such. That brings us to this next one.
Now, as a DM, what were some of your thoughts about Wild Beyond the Witchlight?
It's probably the least favorite, personally, of the pre-written D&D campaigns that I have ever ran as a DM. The plot threads are weak. The world, they give you some good advice for running a campaign within this realm. There are some good points. There's some good events there's some really interesting events that happen. Notably, if you've ever seen a picture of the front, it's the circus. But that's pretty much the highlight of it after that. There is an overarching villain, but it's another one of those that you don't really see till way later. Yes, you have various different events and instances which allows you to explore a little bit. It's going to take more work for the DM to add to make it more interesting for the players, at least from my perspective of running this, than any other pre-writtens that we've actually ran. I think it has potential, but that potential has to come from the Dungeon Master.
As you mentioned, not the easiest to run. Not structured in a way that face value gives the DM and players the most out of that realm, out of that world.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you believe that is this more for a beginner, intermediate, or expert? And do you feel like it's needed to really make this world work?
Well, I'll say that it's not that it's bad. It's just not the best. I'm lukewarm neutral about it for the most part. It's written into the way that any DM can really run it. I think it would just take a bit more of experienced DM to really add to it to take it up a notch, versus a beginning DM who would just read through the book and actually just play it as is. Nah, it won't be as interesting as some of the other pre-written campaigns out there. Now, don't get me wrong, the scenery and the Feywild itself and realms within the Feywild, they're interesting. They are cool. But like I said, it's going to take a DM to really immerse that party in that and to bring them truly into that world, so they get a little bit more out of it than what's actually just presented in the books when it comes to the storyline as well as the areas. Now, what do you think from a player's perspective?
It was, from a player's perspective, it was fun. I think that when the DM really hones in on the chaotic elements and the craziness of the Feywild, you can spark some really fun moments a part of the adventure. When you're not engaged in something that's creative, or you're just kind of treading through the Feywild, and you're, as a DM, you're not throwing in, interesting elements to keep us on our toes as players, it can be, it's okay. I think you're right as far as like when a DM can really truly bring an add-in value as a player, we get to enjoy it. So from our perspective, couldn't tell you had to dig in deeper on this one because we got to enjoy it. And I said it's not my favorite. We've already kind of gone over that. I don't know if it's the worst campaign I've ever experienced. I think it was fine and fun, as long as we continued to be engaged as a players with something new and interesting. It felt good.
What was probably the more interesting thing about it to you as a player?
I think, like I mentioned, it's the really weird and strange stuff that happens. When you encounter something that is kind of crazy that you can interact with, I think if there's some resolution, us as a player, we feel good about the resolution of that event. Trying not to spoil anything. But sometimes in the craziness of the Feywild, there are events or something that happens that you can't really do anything about. There is no resolution. You're just like, okay, that's just the way it is. That's kind of weird, right? And as a player, we can be like, oh, okay, I can't resolve this, so we'll just keep moving on, So sometimes there's a little bit of that, and I think that's makes it a little bit more for the player perspective, where we're just, okay, we move on. Final thoughts.
I wouldn't make it your first. Doesn't have to be your last campaign that you run.
That sounds pretty final.
It is.
It's your last campaign you'll ever run.
I wouldn't make it the first, not the last. It's a filler for me. And I think it was a filler at the time for us. It was because our last campaign finished, so we needed to move on to something new, and that's what was new at the time. So, I would recommend do some reading on various other campaigns that are out there first. But if you have players that truly want to experience the Feywild, because it's a realm that they haven't been to yet, as a DM, work at it. You'll get them there. As a player, final thoughts. I mean, you already kind of
said final I can't think of anything. I don't have any other thoughts.
Moving on.
Yep. So we talked about some of the campaigns that we've run and our thoughts. But what about one-shots? One-shots are a great opportunity to not dive into something that takes too much commitment, and then you can probably, not always, get it done in one session, in one night. And they can be a lot of fun, especially with new players, people who are new to D&D, it gives them an opportunity to try it, to kind of sink their teeth into it. So, I'd love to talk about some one-shots that we've run.
Yep. And one of the also great things about one-shots is that because they're short and confined, you actually can use them as additions to some of your campaigns. And that truly can fill out if you find yourself in a location or place within your campaign. You're like, well, I want more content in this spot. You could always grab one of these one-shots and just plug it right in. And, some will work better than others, but you can use it as a tool to create more content for your players so they can continue on adventuring while you prepare the rest of the campaign, or just fill out that certain area they just happen to be in that seems to be lackluster in your opinion. So one of the adventuring modules is the Tales of the Yawning Portal, which is actually a combination of multiple small adventure scenario one-shots they don't tie together truly, except for the fact that they say they come from the Yawning Portal. You don't have to, the adventures start in the Yawning Portal, which is which you don't have to technically do that. You can just take them for what they are and place them in your different campaigns. I've actually taken various ones and plugged them into various campaigns. The Storm King's Thunder, because it's such a long trotting adventure where you travel a lot, there's a lot of space that you can just plug these in and put little hooks and get the characters and the players to actually do side quests and adventures, as which was mentioned before. So I think they are good to be used as a tool. They're not obviously. I wouldn't take it as an adventure in itself, but used as a substitute or a substitution or addition to campaign, I think they are fair adventures. Nothing difficult to run. Like I said, they're short and small, so you fill in whatever you need to fill in. So, but yeah.
I always feel that the classic introduction to D&D in a one-shot or a campaign starts at an end. I think it can be fun. As you said, you can mix it up, use it as needed, however you want to add it into an existing campaign to kick off a new campaign. The Yawning Portal offers a lot when it comes to the experience of your players, the rowdiness, the craziness that happens in that inn. I think it's a great place to start for any campaign or even these one-shots.
Another point, it has a lot of diversity in the various adventures within the Yawning Portal. So I say use them. Like any tool in your tool chest, use them. Throw them out at your players and have a good time with it. Another one I would like to talk about is Death House. That's one I did use as a starting kicking off point for our Curse of Strahd campaign. As the name implies, Death House, it is a haunted house. What better way to start your adventure or your gate to Barovia? It is a small, short adventure, a small, short one-shot, which your party finds themselves lured in and trapped in a haunted house where nothing's what it seems. And even the quest itself that brought you there may go in a different direction.
As a one-shot, it can be a lot of fun. Just like the theme of Curse of Strahd, creepy and dark is the elements and the vibe of that story. I am freaked out by little creepy kids. No more spoilers other than that. But you can have a lot of fun with it.
Very true.
Now, Death House can be used as a one-shot, as an introduction to a campaign, like Curse of Strahd, or any horror-themed campaign or dark campaign that you want to run.
That's true. I would even go so far as to You can use it as a small adventure and expand, where every session is a room with fraught with events. Every time you go into a new room is like an adventure in itself. It could truly be expanded that way if you wanted to, with some creativity. Because of the theme of the haunted house and the various events that do happen in that haunted house, it's not a bad idea to think about that. And these were some of the official campaigns and one-shots that we've run and it got to experience. And please comment down below. Let us know of the various adventures and campaigns that you ran.
If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel as we have more content coming out soon. Until then, see you next time.